Hello YouTube friends, this is Jeanette and you're visiting the Neals Homestead. We've reached the hot time of year and it's pretty nice sitting here on my patio and just rocking back and forth and acting like an old lady. But it doesn't feel so good up here with the hot sun shining on me. The humidity's really high, and so that makes the temperature that it feels like much higher, at least 10 degrees higher than the actual temperature. Yesterday the heat index was 103. We worked outside some, but it doesn't make you want to very bad. A couple of weeks ago, maybe like 10 days ago, this little patch of ground right here was pretty well flooded by a couple of days worth of storms that we had. I got the tiller out and worked up the ground so I could kill the weeds and salvaged some of it. Over in this part, which is the south part of the patch, I planted cantaloupes here and watermelons over here. Right down this row I planted a bunch of delicata squash. Now what I put out here was all plants that I'd started in my greenhouse, and they looked pretty good, but what I would say is the cantaloupes and the delicata squash had kind of been in their little pots for too long, and squashes don't often do very well if you set them out after they've been in a pot for too long and they actually even start to bloom. The watermelon wasn't like that. It was young enough where it should have gone ahead and grown, but we had all that rain and it just pretty much wasted everything. I had bought a whole bunch of canna bulbs at the Amish produce auction, and so I decided to plant those out here in between the rows of squashes and melons and stuff, and they came up pretty good. So I'm leaving them, and I planted like about 12 basil plants out here. They don't look wonderful. I've picked them twice, so that's why they look a little bit scrawny and, you know, picked over, but I think they're going to survive pretty good, and if I can get the dirt worked around them nicely, I think we'll get a lot of basil out of that. I did also plant like 6 hills of zucchini out here. This one is the only one that's doing any good, and it doesn't look great, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a chance before I rip it up. The peas that I had planted around my hoop trellis, the hog panel trellis, didn't do well. I let the weeds get in them, and the water was standing in here, and so they just didn't do well. The last 2 days we've been in the process of trying to clean this little patch up because I don't want it to just get ruined and wasted. So I've looked up, and it's really kind of too late for me in my area to plant watermelons or any more cantaloupes because they take too long, and it would be too cold by the end of their season for them. Watermelons and cantaloupes like heat. They like a lot of water, but they like heat, and if they were grown in cool conditions, I think they just don't taste as well. So I think that I'll just have to buy some local watermelons and cantaloupes for us to enjoy. We had thoughts of covering this hoop trellis with shade cloth, but then after thinking a while, we decided to plant some cucumbers in here and let that grow up in shade. Hopefully it's not too hot for the cucumbers. I know they don't really like heat, and we have actually set out cucumber plants in the heat before and had them all perish because they don't really like the heat. But I'm hoping that we could possibly get them started in the ground here and let them grow, and then they'd be more used to the heat. So I'm going to try that and see what happens. If it looks like they're not doing well, we can cover this with shade cloth because we have some shade cloth. And then I still want to try to grow some summer lettuce in here in a shaded condition inside the trellis and see if that would work. I don't know for sure if it will work, but I do know some people in my area who are growing summer lettuce under shade cloth, and so I want to give it a try and see if it'll work for me. I worked up a good sweat trying to get all these weeds out along this panel, and I think I've done pretty well, and now I'm ready to plant the seeds. what I'm going to do is a slicing cucumber that's called Corento. It's really designed to grow in a greenhouse, but I don't have any other cucumber seeds right now, and I think they have as good a chance growing here as they do in a greenhouse. These are a specialized hybrid variety that are fairly expensive, and then I went and spilled a bunch of them on the ground, so I had to pick them all up. I've had a good germination rate on what I planted this year out of these so far, so what I want is to have cucumbers every foot, and I'm going to trust that I'm going to have a good germination on these seeds. So that's what I'm going to do, is plant a seed every foot down through here on both sides, and I'm going to do it on the inside instead of the outside of the hoop trellis. That way the cucumbers can climb up on the inside and the fruit will hang down. Okay, I got that done, and I actually came out just right with the amount of seeds that I spilled on the ground. I didn't really want to put those seeds back into the package because there was some dirt mixed in them, and being in my sweaty hand, I thought it might not be good for the whole package if I put those back in. So I was real happy that it worked out just right. So now I have these sections in here between the cannas and that whole area down there where the melons were. I have a lot of zinnia seeds, and so what I think I'm going to do at this point is plant zinnia seeds in there, and then I'll just have a pretty patch for a flower garden, I think, along with a little bit of produce like basil and cucumbers. And then the zucchini. I want to plant, I just now thought, I want to plant some more hills of zucchini back over in that area. Well, this year has been really challenging to get and keep a garden going well because of all the weather that we've had with the rain, and now it's turning hot. I don't want to give up, and knowing that you guys are there waiting for a video for me to put out something about our garden helps me also to go ahead and push myself and not just give up. And so thank you, subscribers, for being there for me, to give me motivation to keep going on this garden. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And if you want to be notified about our videos, go ahead, there's a little bell right beside the subscription place, and you can hit that, and then you'll be notified that we have put out a new video. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you next time.
I'm satisfied, tickled too.